Okay, all done. So welcome everyone to our Cabinet meeting here in Winchester on Tuesday the 18th of March. I'm Nick Adams-King, I'm the leader of the Council and I chair Cabinet. So we've got a couple of pieces to go through to begin with in terms of our housekeeping. The first is to say that we're not expecting a fire alarm, but if there is a fire alarm, please exit using either the two exits there or the way that you came in, and then we all go across to the area outside the Great Hall opposite this building where we can check that everyone is safe. The next thing is to consider apologies. Apologies, Marie. We've got apologies, I think, from Councillor Henderson, who's the chair of the Children and Young People Select Committee. Otherwise, everybody's here. And Councillor Phil North, the Vice Chairman of the committee, is standing in for Juliet, who's on holiday. Welcome, Phil. Declarations of interest. So are there any declarations of interest from members of the Cabinet? No? Okay. We have minutes of our previous meeting. That was held on the 4th of February. That's been included in your papers. Are there any comments on those? Everyone happy to approve them?
Great.
Okay, thank you. In terms of my announcements, I've just got one short one to make, which is around devolution and local government reorganisation. Obviously, that's a major topic that we're considering just at the minute. We have, to remind you, a full council meeting on Thursday to discuss the proposals that are being brought forward, and then a cabinet meeting again here in this room on Friday morning, where we'll be considering the recommendations made by the council on Thursday. The submission that we're making to government, which needs to be made by Friday around local government reorganisation, sets out the principles that we will be following in taking the reorganisation of council structures in Hampshire forward. So that's something for us to debate with council, but I know that it's also being taken through each of our partner councils in the 3 unitary authorities and the 11 districts and boroughs, and we'll be able then to hopefully move forward with much more detailed work over the summer in order to do that. A reminder as well that the public consultation around devolution runs until April the 13th, and our submission there will also be agreed both by council hopefully on Thursday and then hopefully by cabinet on Friday, subject to any recommendations that council may wish to make around that. And again, we'll be placing that, and if you haven't taken a look at the devolution proposals as yet, I'd suggest please do so if you're watching this online or in the room, because your voice does matter in the way in which that element of governance of the county proceeds. So that's that. Now, we've got a big issue to discuss today, the consideration of the proposed use of Stubbington as the site of our new secure children's home. There are a number of members of the public who'd like to make deputations. And so each of you, I think, have been briefed that you've got 10 minutes to make your deputations. And so welcome to you all, and thank you for coming along to do that. And thank you for everybody else for coming and watching what we're doing today. We've got an order that I think has been agreed, hopefully, with everybody. And the first deputies we have are Mr. Howard and Mr. Harris. Would you like to come up? I think it's the same as the select committee when I think you were here. So do take your time. We'll start the clock when you're ready, and you have 10 minutes between you.
Good morning, Chair, Cabinet members, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Peter Howard. I'm a Hampshire resident and a Southampton primary school head teacher for 25 years, as well as an extremely long-standing user of Stubbington Study Centre. My current school is a large junior school in a deprived area of Southampton with around 50% disadvantaged children. I've also been a member of the Stubbington Advisory Committee for a number of years, and at the start of this school year, I was honoured to become its chair. The Advisory Committee is a fantastic example of a successful partnership, and we've worked very closely together, always alongside officers of the County Council, as well as local councillors, to ensure the ongoing success of the centre. The trust that head teachers across Hampshire, Portsmouth and Southampton hold in Stubbington Study Centre has been built over many years. It's a centre that has been enjoyed by many generations and which has stayed true to its core values. Parents trust schools to use Stubbington, and head teachers also trust the centre. Staff are trained teachers, which is part of its uniqueness. Spending time at the centre is also an opportunity for children to come away from their devices and the pressures they offer and immerse themselves in the outdoor environment. I could give the Cabinet many examples of individual children we have taken to the centre and how going to Stubbington has truly changed their lives. Lots of the children we take are disadvantaged, or they have special educational needs or disabilities, including Phoebe, who had a visual impairment, Ben with spina bifida, Harvey with cerebral palsy, Courtney with Down syndrome, and other children with a vast range of social, emotional and mental health needs. I could also cite examples of children whose lives have been so positively affected by their residential trip to Stubbington, it may just have kept them out of the criminal justice system and prevented them from needing a bed at a facility such as the one at Swanwick Lodge. Closing Stubbington may inadvertently cause a greater need for beds in secure units for young people. Regarding the government funding that is so important to the Council for upgrading Swanwick Lodge, I'm aware of a letter dated the 12th of March from Janet Doby MP, the Minister for Children and Families, to Amanda Martin, the Member of Parliament for Portsmouth North, clarifying that they would be willing to discuss an extension further with Hampshire County Council if this were requested. It also states that up to the 12th of March, they had not received such a request from Hampshire. In order to secure this important funding to safeguard the welfare of some of the county's most vulnerable young people, I would implore that the Council make that request. The dilemma is not an either-or situation, but one in which Hampshire County Council could ensure the future of Stubbington Study Centre and rebuild or relocate Swanwick Lodge. As the current chair of the Stubbington Advisory Committee, I've been privy to the finances of the centre, and I'm extremely confident in its future. The centre is not a financial burden to Hampshire County Council. In fact, in 2019, our reserves of £493,000 were taken, which we had kept to maintain and improve the centre's buildings. We were initially told that this would be used for projects within Hampshire Outdoors, including those at Stubbington and Minstead, but which we were informed that any further surplus made from 2022 to 23 could be used to prop up the overall pressures on the Children's Services budget. Last year, the centre made over £200,000 profit, which was taken by the Council for this purpose. We have always made sure that Stubbington has made a surplus. We've been set financial goals by Hampshire, and whatever they have been, we have always met and exceeded them. We look forward to working with Hampshire County Council on a business plan to safeguard the future of the centre. Just one example of a plan regarding the centre includes the Snuffle Hole, which so many of us know intimately as the dining hall at the centre, which was on a Hampshire Asset Register to be replaced some time ago. When we subsequently asked officers where on the register it was, we were told it had been taken off as council officers consider it no longer required replacement, but could be repaired if there were signs of movement in the building. Stubbington has a unique place in all our hearts. We've looked very closely at the Hampshire list of alternative opportunities, and I have to say it's totally inappropriate for the needs of schools whose aim is to give their children an outstanding residential experience. There is nowhere on the list that could provide our children with the learning and the environment that Stubbington offers. Centres catering for 100 children, the number we took to the centre in December 2024, simply do not exist. Thank you very, very much indeed for listening to me, for giving me the opportunity, and on behalf of the children of the county and our two cities, I hope you will vote to save Stubbington Study Centre. Thank you.
Good morning to you all. May I introduce myself? My name is Colin Harris, and for over 40 years I have had the privilege of working in education in Hampshire. If I have one claim to fame, it is that I was head teacher of the two most deprived wards in the South East. Firstly, Charles Dickens Middle Stroke Junior School, when it was run by Hampshire in Portsmouth. And then I was there for 4 years, then I moved off to Warren Park in Lee Park and was there for over 20 years. During that time, I had the pleasure of sending children to Stubbington each year. As you can appreciate, many of the children in my care had varying issues and many SEND issues. Therefore, they needed, and I expected, a carefully prepared approach to enable them to thrive and develop a desire to learn. As most of my children had never been away from home, they also needed careful support and handling. I quickly appreciated that Stubbington had both the approach and staff to enable my children to thrive. Over time, I realised that Stubbington Study Centre was both unique and inspirational. Its uniqueness has been established over many, many years. The centre recognises how best children learn, and they use the environment and the excellent purpose-built facilities to foster real change in individuals. Many children have stood here and acknowledged how Stubbington has changed them, and I could give you numerous examples of that. Stubbington Study Centre's uniqueness is because it has well-trained staff who love their job and are trusted and respected. And it also has facilities built specifically to meet those children's needs. With such a base, the children is put at the very core of everything they do. Add to this its value for money, it's fun, it has a range of activities unrivaled in other establishments. And to actually think that this can be replicated by going to other centres is just wrong. As a committee, you have experienced firsthand the outcry of dissent that the suggestion that the centre should close. This is because Stubbington is more than a sum of its parts. It changes people and instills in them the skills and desires we should acknowledge as the basis for a successful community. I also suggest to you that Stubbington Study Centre is inspirational, both to the children and the staff who visit it. At Warren Park, this translated into the creating of an outdoor classroom ourselves. We worked with Stubbington Study Centre and provided a building and a curriculum celebrating putting the child at the very core. I raised a lot of money and we built an outdoor classroom. In 2010, those wonderful people from Ofsted visited and awarded the school an outstanding. They came back again in 2013 because they changed the rules about outstanding schools, and out of 36 areas, Warren Park had 35, including a curriculum built for the needs of children. This outstanding sort of grade you don't see very often in deprived schools. Children who struggled with their normal curriculum thrived in the environment and the learning atmosphere we created. Our SEND children especially flourished and their learning blossomed. We owe Stubbington so much. In my humble opinion, we need to recognise that Stubbington Study Centre is the crown in HCC's jewels. Every authority that I know and I've worked with would love to have a Stubbington. As officers, please recognise this, and rather than contemplate its closure, consider how this centre can support more children in Hampshire. It is unique and inspirational, and with just a little thought from you, can do even more for the wonderful children in our care. Thank you.
So, thank you very much, both of you. And thank you for letting us know your thoughts. We've now got our next deputies, and they're George and Lila. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Have I got your name? Have I got your name right? Yeah, Good, good. So come and sit down, guys. So, have they explained how you need to turn the microphones on? So this is Marie. Marie's going to come and give you a hand to explain what to do. Who's... Well done. Take your time. Don't be scared by all these people, okay? Nor the people behind you. And just let us know what you think in your own time. And if you want to take a minute, and you want, if you make a bit of a mistake, don't worry. No one will be worried about it. And just take a moment, okay, both of you? So start when you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lila, and I'm in Year 5. I'm here today to tell you why we must keep Stevenson Study Centre open. It is an incredible place that gives children, like me, the chance to learn, grow, and experience things we can never do in the classroom. It is more than just a trip, it is a life-changing adventure. When we first arrived at Steventon, we were all so excited. The fresh air, the big open spaces, and the welcoming staff made us feel at home right away. From the very start, we learned about teamwork, independence, and looking after nature. Last year, when we went to Steventon, I had the chance to learn about nature and wildlife in a way I could never in the classroom. One highlight was making mammal motels. I was able to analyse small mammals that I'd never seen before. One of the first activities we did was the Egg Stream Challenge. It was all about using our creative and problem-solving skills to protect an egg from breaking when dropped from a height. We worked in teams, discussing ideas, testing materials, and learning from each other. Some of it succeeded, and some of us just made a big, messy omelette. But it taught us resilience. Even if our first idea didn't work, we kept trying until we found a solution. It also gave us an insight into budgeting. We had to decide if we needed or wanted equipment to save our egg, as we had a set amount of money to spend on resources. One of the most magical moments was going to the hide at night. We had to be quiet and patient as we waited to see badgers, foxes, and even deers. The hardest part? Keeping quiet. When the animals finally appeared, it was incredible. Seeing those wild creatures up close in their natural habitat was something I will never forget. It made us appreciate wildlife and understand how important it is to protect them. Although we learned about wildlife, we also had the S Factor to practice for on our last night. Unfortunately, my house group for the week, the Foxes, didn't win. It was the badgers that took the glory. We enjoyed singing and performing to our friends. What really stood out to me, though, was how much Steventon Study Centre helped my friends with additional needs. One of my friends has Down syndrome. She has been our friend since year R. We were really excited when she decided that she could come along with us. With a little bit of extra help, she was able to have a great time. One of the best parts of the trips was seeing how inclusive Steventon Study Centre is. My friend was able to join us in orienteering, exploring the beach, and even experiencing the hide at night. It meant so much to her to be included in everything, and it showed us all that with the right support, everyone can take part in these adventures like these. Normally when we go on trips, she uses a wheelchair, but Steventon has an upgrade, the beach buggy. On our beach walk, where we got to make rock pools and search for fossils, my friend was able to be fully part of the experience. What an amazing piece of kit, as my friend did get to take part in it, and it made me realise how amazing the staff are. You have the responsibility for all children in Hampshire, of which I am just one voice of thousands, to have the same unique experience that we had. Closing the centre would deny that opportunity, not just to children at my school, but across the county. If Steventon Study Centre closes, children from future generations will miss out on these experiences. They won't have the chance to explore the natural world like we did. They won't get to learn such hand-on ways, and that's so important. It's not just about what we learn, it's about how we learn. Steventon is a place where we can explore, discover and grow. It's a place where learning comes to life. Let's make sure future students get the same opportunities that we did. It's a place that we will always treasure, and it should be there for every child who needs it. I therefore strongly believe that Steventon Study Centre should stay open. Thank you for listening.
Okay, well done. Now, George, it's your turn. Okay, just go when you're ready. And again, if you want to take a moment, then that's fine. Okay.
Hello everyone, my name is George and I'm in Year 5. I want to talk about why we should keep Stubbington Study Centre open because for me, it was one of the best parts of my time at school so far. When my class went to Stubbington last December, it wasn't just another school trip, it was an adventure. I remember going to the Hyde, looking up at the stars and witnessing badgers, foxes and deers exploring their surroundings. I never knew how much interesting and wonderful seeing animals up close like that could be, and I definitely didn't know how many different animals live in the woods and ponds around us. We even learned how to track animals by looking at their footprints, something I never thought I'd get to do. But what made Stubbington special for me wasn't just the cool activities, it was the feeling that we were doing something important and exciting. We weren't just reading about stuff in books, we were out there, exploring and experiencing everything for ourselves. It made me feel so much more connected to the world around me, and I'm sure other children will feel the same if they get the chance to go to Stubbington. One exciting challenge was orienteering. We had to use maps, compasses and teamwork to find different checkpoints around the centre. Some of us discovered that we were natural explorers. Others, well, let's just say they were glad to make it back before bedtime. I also want to talk about how Stubbington helped my friends with additional needs. Some of my friends can find traditional classroom learning a bit tricky, but when we went to Stubbington, we all had an equal chance to thrive by learning outside and at our own pace. The staff was so patient and understanding, and they made sure everybody felt comfortable, but because they're also teachers, they know how to make sure we stay firmly within the boundaries so that everybody can have fun. Whether it's through the calming environment or the small group activities, all of us could take part in everything. It gave us all confidence and helped us shine in ways we hadn't before. I first visited Stubbington on a day visit when I was in Year 4. Some of my friends are more anxious than I am about sleeping away from home, so our teachers planned for us to visit before. Linking the school curriculum to this visit, but also to give us valuable insight into what to expect from a residential visit. We had to build shelters that could survive the extreme weather test. It was so much fun, but it also made us think about our engineering, teamwork, and how people survive in extreme conditions. Some of our shelters stood strong, while others collapsed faster than our confidence on a spelling test. Almost my whole year group attended the residential, and I think this is because they could see and understand what it was about from the day visit. My Year 4 friends visited recently, and I'm also here today as their voice because they already want to attend their residential now. It would be a real shame if they missed out on their life experiences my year group has learned. Every activity at Stubbington Study Centre helped us learn important life skills. We became more confident, worked better as a team, and gained new appreciation for the world around us. If this amazing place closes, future children will miss out on these incredible experiences. And let's be honest, where else will they learn the true pain of tripping over trees in the dark? One life skill was learning that unpacking and repacking our bags neatly at the end of the trip was not a skill most of us had mastered. At Stubbington, your dormitory earns points for keeping your room clean and tidy. You get extra bonuses for turning off lights, closing doors and windows, and not hiding things under the bed. We got better at this over the course of the week, and Mr. Scarborough scored my dormitory highly. My mum and dad really appreciated this piece of life learning. If Stubbington closes, it won't just be the activities we miss. It will be the chance to learn in a way that helps us understand the world better. We can't just sit in classrooms all the time. We need places like Stubbington where we can get out there, get our hands dirty, and learn in the real world. It makes us feel more confident and helps us work together as a team. We don't just learn facts, we learn how to solve problems, communicate, and be responsible. You say that outdoor education is not a statutory obligation for council to provide. I totally disagree, and as a voter for the future, think you should consider a change in this policy. There is so much evidence on the positive impact on children's mental health. It takes us away from playing on our screens. Mobile phones and screen time are not permitted at Stubbington Study Centre, and this is for the best. The real world isn't pixelated, and Stubbington helps children like us to realise and appreciate the world in which we live. Stubbington Study Centre is not just a school trip. It's a place where we grow as individuals and create memories that will last a lifetime. Please help us keep it open so that many more children can learn, explore, and enjoy everything it has to offer.
Well done. So I think all those people clapping tells you how well you both just did. So really well done. And George, neither of my children have been to Stubbington, and that explains why their bedrooms are in the state they're in and have been for quite a few years. So thank you so much for letting us know what you think. We'll obviously take what you've just said into account in a few minutes' time when we talk about the decision. So if you pop back over there, if that's okay. And then what we're going to do now is allow Joseph to come and talk to us as well. Joseph Adamson. Yeah. So welcome, Joseph. Same routine, if that's okay. 10 minutes. The counter's over there, and start when you're ready. Thanks.
That's perfect, thank you very much. I'd just like to say the letter that's been mentioned previously from Janet Dabby to Amanda Martin, I've just passed around to you, so if you haven't seen it yet, you can now see it in paper form. Good morning, councillors. My name is Joseph Adamson. I'm a resident of Stubbington. I'm speaking to you today as a new adult in this world. I must admit, it's my first time speaking to you in a format like this, and that's because I was lucky enough to have a childhood which set me up for success. Parents that believed in me and allowed me the confidence to come here today. It was a childhood with outdoor education, extracurricular activities, and the ability to learn about nature in a school setting and beyond. Yet under your current plans, these opportunities will be stripped away from future generations. What the proposed closure does is take Hampshire children's future away. Look around you. There's loads of people in this room, even at 10:30 on a work day. There's thousands that turned out on the Leon Solent seafront to tell you the strength of their feeling, and there's 23,000 that signed a petition to ask you to save the centre, of which 13,500 are your constituents. We are not here for personal interest. We are here out of service and a duty to people who cannot tell you their views themselves, or who haven't even been born yet. Lots has been made of your statutory duties during this process. However, what hasn't been mentioned enough is your duty as councillors to the residents of Hampshire. General Obligation 3.1 of the Hampshire County Council Code of Conduct for members states that you must represent the needs of residents and put their interests first. We've already mentioned some of the ways that they've told you that need, but let's refer back to the consultation, because almost 5,000 of Hampshire residents asked you to save the centre, 94% of them, in fact. Your duty today is to listen to them. Additionally, your constituents have explicitly told you that you'll be depriving kids of opportunities. 55% said they would stop using residential experiences, 60% day visits, 63% for youth and community groups, 64% day camps, and 36% for day meetings. You are choosing an uncertain replacement for a certain loss for our kids. So why not instead invest in the centre? Is that not our true duty, to provide a better life for our children and their future descendants? This debate has been framed as either or and an us versus them narrative, something that we, and as the 2050 Select Committee ruled, who voted unanimously to save the centre, need to refute. You can choose both. You have that choice today. To close such an important asset of community value, which the Hillheads Residents Association and Fareham Borough Council approved last week, the residents of Hampshire would expect no less than for you to chase down all alternative avenues. There has been no request for an extension to the deadline, and there are numerous sites across different local authorities that have not been analysed. This is despite the DfE opening the door, if you will, and saying they'd be up to consider an extension to the search for an alternative site. As you've seen the physical copy of the letter in front of you, please make sure you understand this is not conjecture. This is an opportunity available to you, to Hampshire, and to your constituents. We are told that extra provision will be provided to make up for this shortfall, yet we have no idea what this entails and how it aims to replace these services. Ironically, the proposal asks you as councillors to shut down a service with no idea on the replacement nor its long-term impact, but you're asked to choose a secure centre because of similar uncertainty as to what will happen with the closure of Swanwick Lodge. Both sides carry risk, but also reward, so why not try and choose both? You are asked to make your decision based on the wards of state that need a secure home to replace Swanwick Lodge. We don't dispute that its end of life is coming, but what is of note that its home does not have to reside within Hampshire. Using statistics that were disseminated within the 2050 Committee for Resources, between 25 and 30% of Swanwick Lodge places were taken up by kids who call Hampshire home. And there are 4 kids nationally that reside now out of Hampshire, but call it home. This issue is national. It's not just Hampshire. A solution can be found to house both within Hampshire, the centre and the secure home. But we can just say no, as it does not have to reside within Hampshire. Yet the question of this debate is not whether we should choose either or, it's whether you're prepared to sacrifice the study centre. We're living in an age where the unfolding climate catastrophe is everywhere. Habitat loss is exponentially rising, water shortages, droughts, species extinction and global warming, just to name a few. So why, especially now, in this new era, should we deprive them the unique experience that Stubbington Study Centre allows them to have? Allows kids to live in nature, to learn it firsthand, and to kindle a love that lasts their entire life. Is that not what we need? Especially in this post-COVID world, where children are growing up with unlimited access to electronic devices, subject to a whole world of content beyond their years online, and spend less time outside than ever. Education like this is important, especially with these considerations. Additionally, mental illness within children is at an all-time high, its highest rate in recorded history. Is now really the time we should be cutting back on services that help alleviate these issues? I don't think so. What this debate hasn't considered is the future ramifications of this closure, as we've had 90 years of success out of the centre, and its widespread positive effects cannot be wholly aggregated. The centre is inclusive. It helps children with physical and special needs, including autism, Down syndrome, Asperger's, deafness, and many more. There are kids who are in foster care, looked after children, and children from areas of extreme deprivation who are also catered for. Everyone is welcome. The centre even has a special accessibility suite with a flat bed, hoist and wet room, so that all children can be included regardless of their needs. How does this closure affect them? And are you really going to be able to replace that in alternative provision, especially at a low cost, which is implied? What about the people kept away from crime, kept out of the system, and those who come out of it loving life more than they did before? Can we risk the consequences of this closure and enter yet another unknown? I don't think so. Let's also talk for a moment about the residents of Hillhead and Stubbington. The place where I call home is not just a bypass, it's the home to hundreds and thousands and hundreds of kids. I've lived here for my entire life, all 21 years of it, and I can speak personally to the decline in schooling during my lifetime. I joined Crofton and Dale at the age of 4. It was outstanding. Now it's just good. I joined Crofton School when I was 11. It was one of the top 100 schools in the country. Now it's just good. I joined Bay House College when I was 16. It's now dropped to requires improvement after I left. Can our kids really afford to lose more? They've recently just lost the Haven Centre. Now you're trying to shut down the study centre. This is not a failing centre. This is a thriving one. The choice you have today is not between two options. You have many. Asking for an extension, reconsidering the existing sites, looking at district sites, or just saying no. You have options, so why not at least try? Your constituents deserve that. When you make your choice today, please remember that not all avenues have been exhausted. Your constituents demand you find a way to keep the centre open. The 2050 Select Committee voted unanimously to recommend it stays open. Fareham Borough Council also recommended you stay open, and no less than 6 MPs have requested that you find a way to keep Stubbington Study Centre open. So please be on the right side of history. Vote today, save Stubbington Study Centre. The world is watching you. Thank you very much.
Well done. Thanks very much for that, Joseph. Lynn, you're our final deputy before we get into the business of what we're doing.
Good morning, councillors. My name is Lynn Murray, and I'm speaking as a member of the Hillhead Residents Association. You've heard, obviously, and some of you from deputations made to this select committee, and today from the deputations made this morning, arguments against the closure of the Stubbington Study Centre. I'll not repeat those arguments, and instead want to focus on a number of claims made in the report before you now, and a couple of developments since the Select Committee met. One major development, which Joseph mentioned, is the listing by Fareham Borough Council of the Study Centre as an asset of community value, which is a reflection, clearly, of its importance in the community. Although Hampshire has not proposed to sell the centre, its listing will constitute what's called a material consideration, which Hampshire's regulatory committee will need to take into account when deciding on any planning application for the site, and therefore may influence their decision. So it is important. The second major development, which has already been mentioned as well, is the letter from Janet Davey, the Minister for Children and Families, to Amanda Martin, MP, in which she advises, "We have not received any request from Hampshire for more time to come to a decision on the outcome of its site selection process, but we would be willing to discuss this further with Hampshire if this was required." I've emailed you all a copy of the letter, and Joseph has circulated a hard copy just now. So I'll come back to the letter in relation to claims made in the report. Turning to those claims. The report claims that the study centre was selected as the most suitable site for the new secure facility after an exhaustive search. However, officers admitted that they had not approached any district or borough councils in the county to discuss with them whether they might have any suitable sites which could either be purchased, leased or land swapped. Worse, Fareham Borough Council, within whose borough the study centre is located, was only informed of the consultation the day before it was launched. Fareham, as we know, have expressed their strong opposition to the proposed closure of the centre and have said that they would be very happy to discuss alternative sites with Hampshire. The report claims that the Department for Education will not grant an extension of time to allow the council to consider other sites. However, during the debate at the Select Committee, officers admitted that they had not formally approached the DFE for an extension of time and were basing their assessment on informal responses received from their counterparts at the department. As I've already mentioned, the Minister has advised that the department would be willing to discuss an extension if one was required. Given the outstanding reputation which Hampshire has in providing and managing secure placements, that being the reason why the DFE approached Hampshire in the first instance, it's more than likely that they would grant an extension. The report then claims that even if the DFE were to grant an extension of time, there would be little point as no other sites have been identified as suitable. As I previously mentioned, none of the district and borough councils in the county have been approached to identify any sites which they might have available, either to transfer, lease or swap. And perhaps there may even be suitable sites amongst the 7 Hampshire care homes which were closed in 2024, where, according to a recent BBC report, investment is now to be halted. The suspicion is that officers have chosen the study centre as, all things considered, they think it is an easy target, as the council does not have statutory responsibility for providing the activities concerned. The report further claims that children attending Swanwick Lodge have no choice, whereas the children attending Stubbington do have the choice of other Hampshire-run facilities and many other private providers of facilities similar to the study centre. This is not the case, as you've heard. As regards children attending Swanwick Lodge, it became clear during discussion at the committee that although Hampshire has a statutory responsibility to provide secure placements, it does not have a statutory responsibility to provide a secure facility, and that if the new facility were not provided by Hampshire, it would be provided elsewhere, to which Hampshire could make referrals. As regards children attending the study centre, the report ignores the clear findings of the public consultation, which in the main oppose closure. The argument rests principally on the claim that 85% of primary schools in the county don't use the study centre at all, and facilities provided by Hampshire and private providers elsewhere are comparable. This argument is highly misleading. There are only another 4 residential sites in Hampshire which are anywhere near to being comparable to the range and quality of the activities provided at the centre, the rest being country parks or adventure parks of some sort. Moreover, responses to the consultation showed quite clearly that if Stubbington were to be closed, a majority of respondents, 55%, would stop doing residential activity and only 11%, barely 1 in 10, would look somewhere else for residential experiences. The survey responses also show that of the main reasons for using Stubbington, 74% cite convenience of the location. However, of the 4 residential sites mentioned in the report, 3 are in the west of the country, two in the New Forest, one at Carlshot, and the fourth on the Basingstoke Canals in the northeast. There are none in the southeast of the county, the main catchment area for the study centre. These sites are hardly convenient or even affordable, even for the 11% of respondents who would look elsewhere to carry on the activity concerned. In addition, as its own equalities impact assessment sets out, study centre users are more likely to come from nearby Fareham and Gosport, which contain areas of deprivation. The assessment goes on to say that it's therefore likely that this characteristic will be disproportionately represented among the users and will therefore be negatively affected by the proposal. The report claims that closure of the study centre is an opportunity to enhance Hampshire's offer elsewhere. However, as previous speakers have mentioned, it's not clear what enhancement might look like or how it might be funded when the council is facing a £97 million budget. No other site could match the study centre's educational offering without significant expense being incurred, and nor could any other site replicate the unique combination of habitats and environments which the study centre offers. The report also claims that the decision to close Stubbington is not being made on financial grounds. But this ignores the terrible cost to the community and future generations of children who will be denied the often life-changing opportunities the study centre offers. Councillor Glenn characterised the decision about closing the study centre as a moral decision, which pitted the needs of the few against the needs of the many. He was right. Councillors, if you decide to close the study centre, you will be saying to the 13,587 Hampshire people who signed the petition opposing closure, which was the biggest petition that Hampshire's ever received by a long way, you will be saying to these people, your views don't matter. You will be saying to the record thousands who responded to the consultation, your views don't matter. You will be saying to more than 1,000 people who marched on a cold, wet February day to protest the closure, your views don't matter. But worst of all, you will be saying to the 6,000 children who might otherwise attend the study centre each year in the future, many from deprived backgrounds, some of whom might otherwise end up in a secure facility, you don't matter. 6,000 children every year, you don't matter. Is that really the message you want to be giving your residents, whose interests you are supposed to represent? As you know, whilst they recognised the need to replace Swanwick Lodge, the Select Committee were unanimous in their opposition to the proposal to close the study centre and passed a number of resolutions recommending that officers be asked to look for other sites and to ask for the DFE for an extension of time to do so. Stubbington Study Centre is one of the few remaining jewels in your crown and much too valuable to be closed. I would urge you to heed the recommendations of the Select Committee and keep it open. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for that as well. Lynn, I can confirm that we all have been listening to each of those different deputations. We're grateful to you all for coming along and letting us know what you think. What we do now is to move on to the substantive part of discussing the proposal in front of us. We have a report from the Deputy Chief Executive and the Director of Hampshire 2050 and the Director of Children's Services about the repurposing of the study centre to enable development of a new secure children's home, providing a safe and secure environment for the most vulnerable children in the County Council's care. So they're part of the next bit. I haven't forgotten them. Clearly, the deputies have made reference to the number of responses that we've received. We've all received very many emails from individuals about the concerns that have been raised as part of the deputations, and we're also aware of the petition to save Stubbington Study Centre. I think we can confirm the number of accepted signatures on the petition as part of our response. There's been pre-scrutiny by Councillor Glenn's committee, the Hampshire 2050 Corporate Services and Resources Select Committee. That was on the 6th of March, and most of us here from Cabinet were there and present at that meeting. The Select Committee Chairman has written to me, and we've all seen a copy of that letter, and it's also included in our agenda pack at page 255. There are some exempt appendices to this item. They cover some of the financial aspects and some of the confidential aspects of the report. I certainly don't intend to refer to them in any part of the debate that we're having, but if we did need to go into that part of the report, then we would need to go into exempt session. I prefer that we try not to do that, but if you find yourselves in a place where you wish to refer to those, then do let us know and we'll make arrangements for that. So the process through which we're going to go, which I was coming to, which is that we're going to have Gary and Stuart introduce the report to us. Then we have our colleagues who are non-executive members who are welcome to come and address Cabinet and make their points known. Councillors Minahan, Ford, Burton and Hare have registered to speak. Pam, I don't know whether you want to say anything as well or to. Okay, so that's super then. So we've got the four of you that'd like to speak. What we'll ask you to do is come and let us know your thoughts after Gary and Stuart have presented the report to us. We then have a period of some questions that we wish to ask the officers, and then we will debate the proposal in front of us. So that's how this next bit works. So Gary and Stuart, if you'd like to come and present the report to us, please, that would be great.
Good morning, Leader. Good morning, Cabinet. As Stuart and I did at Select Committee, we're going to jointly present the report. I'm going to start, and then Stuart's going to pick up some of the concluding comments. I'm very aware that we've performed a number of briefings on this paper in advance of the meeting, including both a technical Select Committee briefing and in the Select Committee itself, where members have had the opportunity to ask questions, all of which have been either responded to in the committee or separately in writing. So I'm not going to propose to go through the paper in too much detail, but Cabinet will give you now a high-level summary of the paper. So the papers before you today and the associated recommendations are about securing the opportunity to invest in the infrastructure, supporting and safeguarding the most vulnerable children in our care, as the current secure facility at Swanwick Lodge is reaching the end of its economic life. In doing so, we've been offered the potential to secure at least £60 million from the Department for Education to invest in a new secure unit, and are required to submit a business case by the end of March. A fundamental component of this business case is a requirement of a developable site in our ownership, which meets a series of defined site criteria. As you know, we've completed a thorough review of sites over the past 12 months, which members will see in the exempt appendices, and this has been an extensive, thorough and diligent exercise. Following this review, the only realistic site we have to put forward that meets the criteria and the timetable as set out by the DFE is the current Stubbington Lane site. For clarity, members, there is no other site currently available and no certainty of a future site coming forward. We have therefore consulted on repurposing the study centre site, which would mean closing the study centre later this calendar year. In doing so, we've sought the public's views on this, and I'd like to thank the 5,000 respondents for engaging in our consultation. You've also heard this morning that a petition to save Stubbington Study Centre has also been received and analysed, and I can confirm this includes 13,587 accepted signatures from Hampshire residents, which clearly represents a strength of feeling and reaffirms the significant value that our residents place in the educational experiences and provision at Stubbington. Our analysis has indicated Stubbington is a small component of a wider outdoor education provision in the area, utilised by approximately 80 Hampshire schools, with the vast majority of Hampshire schools accessing and having significant choice of other sites across the county and beyond to deliver learning objectives. Equally, we've heard during the consultation the significant value in education-led outdoor learning provision at Stubbington. And as members will see from the report and the associated recommendations, there is a significant new opportunity to reshape our own Hampshire County Council outdoor offer and replicate the current education-led approach to learning at Stubbington at a range of other outdoor centres and venues across the County Council. Finally, before I hand over to Stuart, since the Select Committee, I also wanted to confirm an update on the asset of community value. Fareham Borough Council considered the request to register the centre as an asset of community value and have confirmed in writing to me that following their executive meeting on the 11th of March, they intend to accept this request. Members will be aware that the implications of this were discussed at the recent Select Committee, and so unless there's any particular questions on that, Leader, we've sort of given all the information in relation to the implications of that. Hand over to Stuart now.
Thank you. Good morning, Cabinet. Just a few short words from me. We know that Stubbington enriches children's lives. We've just heard from George and Lila just what an impact it had on them. And I'm not for one moment saying anything different. It does. However, Swanwick Lodge enriches children's lives as well. And indeed, in some cases, it saves children's lives. The children that go to Swanwick are helped to overcome experiences that no children should have to endure. It supports them to safely go back into the community and lead fulfilling lives. I'd like to thank all members at the recent Select Committee who acknowledged the need for a secure home. However, acknowledgement does not equate to agreement to progress a new secure home. And I have to say and reiterate, we really need one, both now and in the longer term, for our most vulnerable children in Hampshire. We've heard through the consultation from many residents just how much they value Stubbington. Understandably, we have not heard from any children who have been at Swanwick, or indeed their families. So I'm compelled as the Director of Children's Services to advocate both for those children who are insecure now, who have previously been there and who will need to go into a secure placement at some time in the future. So I'd ask you members in your deliberations today to keep those most vulnerable children in mind. Thank you.
Stuart and Gary, thank you so much for that. So what we're going to do now, I think, is to ask the local members to also come and present to us, and then you'll come back to answer some questions from us. So lots of moving about. Leslie, I think you're first up if you're ready.
Leader, Cabinet members, fellow council members and members of the public. Thank you for this second opportunity to speak in support of not closing the Stubbington Study Centre. In just one generation, outdoor play for children has reduced by 50%. Only 1 in 4 children play outside regularly. 1 in 8 households have access to a garden, theirs or otherwise. In many of these households live our most vulnerable children. We are, as a society, drowning in a health and well-being crisis, particularly among our children. The waiting list for children and adolescent mental health services in Hampshire alone runs into thousands. In my hometown of Gosport, 1/3 of children under the age of 11 are classed as obese. The truth is, many of our children are caught in a storm of online distraction, a diet of processed food and physical inactivity. In this challenging landscape, the Stubbington Study Centre offers more than just an outdoor educational experience. It gives children a rare opportunity to reconnect with nature and reset their biorhythm. In a world where Ofcom reports 9 out of 10 children have their own phone by the age of 11, and children aged 8 to 17 spend between 2 and 5 hours every day online. The centre allows children to step away from the screen and immerse themselves in real, tangible experiences with their peers, to be present, to live in the moment, and to reconnect with the world around them. Stubbington Study Centre accommodates children of all abilities, backgrounds and disability, providing a welcoming environment for all. Many children from my division have benefited from their residential learning at the centre, especially those from the deprived backgrounds. At the 2050 Select Committee, we heard from Alfie as he shared his brother Riley's story. Riley at the time went to Stubbington Centre when his life was in turmoil, a looked after child excluded from school with parents in prison. Alfie's brother came back from his residential stay 2 inches taller, with confidence to turn his life around. He is now a qualified football coach, inspiring others to believe in themselves. There is enough experience in this room today to understand Riley's future could have been a lot different. We may not know how many Rileys there are in our world, but we do know that 6,000 children each year experience Stubbington Study Centre, potentially a life-changing opportunity. Our society has created a world where children are more likely to be consumed by their phones than the natural world. This is causing far-reaching damage to our children's health and well-being. This is not a childhood we want for our children. We have a responsibility to provide our children with the opportunities they need to grow strong, healthy and connected with the world around them. We must not ignore this need. Now more than ever, we must fulfil our duty as corporate parents. We also have a responsibility to support parents and carers of our children, to encourage and foster a healthier life for their children. In doing so, ensuring our children are ready and equipped to embrace the challenges of the adult world. Today, I urge this Conservative Cabinet to listen to the communities, but most importantly, the children you represent, to keep the Stubbington Centre open. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Mike, you're next.
Leader, Cabinet, good morning. I don't intend to take too much time with my deputation today, as most of you were present at the 2050 Select Committee meeting on the 6th of March, at which I spoke in opposition to the proposed closure and repurposing of the Stubbington Study Centre. Thank you for the opportunity, however, for speaking to you again today to reinforce my position. I represent a division that is just 2 miles from the secure unit at Swanwick and next door but one to Crofton, where the centre sits. And my division includes 4 primary schools whose pupils have and continue to benefit from stays at the centre. In fact, my own children, and indeed my grandchildren, can be added to the list of these. The shaping of whose lives have been helped by these residential visits, often the first stay away from home for very many of them. Many parents and children alike from within my division have expressed to me their concern that the centre is being considered for closure. May I start by saying, and I guess most others would say the same, that I recognise the need for a new secure unit to accommodate some of the most vulnerable youngsters in our society. This is irrefutable, as, however, is the need to retain the study centre. So we should not, I respectfully suggest, be linking the two. I really can do little more than ask that when making your decision today, you place a heavy weight on the passionate, factual and superbly presented representations both today and at the Select Committee by many people who have been and still have a very close association with the centre. These notwithstanding the written representations and significant petition numbers. We are, of course, as a council, currently having to undertake some very difficult decisions over which we have little option, being driven by financial imperatives. This one does not fall within this category. It is solely before you today, I would suggest, because of a totally unrelated need elsewhere. The social and educational benefits for retaining the study centre must far outweigh the need to use this location as a replacement secure unit. In conclusion, I would urge my colleagues on the Cabinet that the proposal to repurpose the centre is rejected and alternative locations sought for a new unit. The Select Committee shared my view that I expressed in my deputation to them that this should involve engagement with our district and borough councillor colleagues who may be able to bring forward suitable sites owned by themselves, and I hope that you will pursue this option. Thank you, Leader and Cabinet.
Thank you, Mike. Now, I was going to change the order slightly. Pal, as the local member, I was going to leave until last and ask Joanne to come talk next, if that works for you both. Yep. I caught Joanne out. Sorry, Jo.
Thank you very much. That just threw me a bit. Good morning, Leader, Cabinet members, officers and members of the public. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. Throughout this consultation process, there have been two very clear messages: recognising the need for a secure children's home to protect our most vulnerable children, and the importance of retaining Stubbington Study Centre, a much-loved, well-used community asset. At the Select Committee, we listened to the many deputations and heard firsthand about how Stubbington Study Centre has served the community for many decades, many children, vulnerable children and those with disabilities, and at times provided life-changing experiences for many along the way, together with precious memories that will last a lifetime. But as Stuart mentioned just when he spoke, what we haven't heard is those that have needed the services of Swanwick Lodge. And despite the unfortunate negative comments about the children of a secured home, they are truly wrong. And these children too deserve investment and the opportunity to be protected and in a safe environment. I recall my visit to Swanwick Lodge, and on the departure, the final stretch before I left, there was a wall, and this wall was full of notes. Anyone that's been there, I'm sure, would have seen it. And these are notes and handwritten messages from the children that have served their time and been there and been looked after and protected. And these notes were inspiring. These notes were from children that have said they've got courage, they've got confidence and trust that when they walk out those doors and leave Swanwick Lodge, they truly believe people have invested in them and they have got too a bright future ahead of them. The Select Committee recommended engagement with the DFE to seek an extension on time so a continued search for a suitable site could be sought. I ask in your decision today to give further consideration to rebuild Swanwick Lodge in its current location. It would be regrettable to lose this facility, and it's well placed in a right location and supported by the local community and those residents. Rebuild Swanwick Lodge doesn't need to have an adverse effect on other Hampshire communities and residents. Stubbington Study Centre needs to have all uncertainties removed in coming weeks, and the people of Hampshire will know their voices have been heard by Hampshire County Council. This is within our power to make it happen, so please, let's do so. Thank you.
So, Jo, thank you very much. And finally, Pal, who is the local county councillor for Stubbington.
Good morning, Leader, Cabinet, officers and members of the public. Thank you for saving the best till last. And you were pleased to hear that won't be taking 2 hours. Everybody's very articulated their points and the deputations have been absolutely fantastic. And I'm not sure I can add any more to that. However, I will say what I need to say. So thank you for listening to me. My name is Councillor Powell Hare and I'm representing the Crofton County Division of Hampshire, and Stubbington Study Centre lies in my division and I know it very well. So we have listened to all the deputies, and actually I was very emotional this time and last time listening to the children. The voice of the child is very powerful, and I think you'll all agree what they've said comes from the heart and from their experiences at the Stubbington Study Centre. So I hope that you will take that into consideration, not only from Layla, George, but also from Charlotte and Matilda and Alfie from the Select Committee. So I'm here to express my deep concern and that of my residents regarding the proposal to close Stubbington Study Centre to facilitate the construction of a new specialist secure welfare children's home, which is due for consideration today. I want to begin by acknowledging the urgent need to replace Swanwick Lodge, which is no longer deemed fit for purpose. Leader, you and I both visited that a few years ago, and I'm sure you've been there since. And I agree that the current structure is not suitable for the needs of the children residing there, and a more appropriate facility is clearly required to ensure the safety, well-being and rehabilitation of vulnerable young people. I fully support the goal of providing them with a secure, fit-for-purpose environment. I also would like to applaud our hard-working officers for the work they have conducted in children's services and universal services, knowing our financial budgetary pressures and challenges. And our children's services, we should all be proud of, is outstanding. This is due to our great and amazing officers. As county councillors, we are corporate parents to all children in Hampshire. It's our duty to look after children who have suffered significant trauma, abuse and complex needs. However, I believe that achieving this should not come at the cost of closing Stubbington Study Centre, an invaluable and much loved resource for our community and young people across Hampshire. For many years, Stubbington Study Centre has provided exceptional educational and developmental opportunities. Its residential and outdoor learning programmes have helped thousands of children, including children with special educational needs, to build confidence, teamwork skills and love for nature. The impact of these experiences extend far beyond the classroom, contributing significantly to the personal and social development of our young people. To close this centre would be to take away a vital part of their educational learning. Apologies, I am not really a big tech person, but I do have 2 items on different devices today because this was running out of charge. So I'm going to refer to my phone here with bits and pieces on here, sorry. So I just want to really have a little bit of a different stance today. So the Hampshire 2050 Select Committees, we listened to their debate and the scrutiny. Clearly, their amendment clearly advocates for the preservation of Study Centre and calls for exploring alternative sites for the secure children's home. So, Leader, this measured approach would ensure that we continue to benefit from the centre's educational and developmental opportunities while also addressing the need for a secure facility. So in light of these points, I respectfully request that you acknowledge the community value by recognising the irreplaceable role that Stubbington Study Centre plays in supporting educational and developmental opportunities for our children. Heed the committee's amendment to fully consider the recommendations of the Hampshire 2050 Select Committee, which urge the exploration of alternative sites for the secure children's home. And thirdly, prioritise long-term benefits by ensuring that the decision made today preserves the unique educational benefits of the study centre, which are critical to the ongoing well-being of our children and the community. Going back to my other device. Members, a consultation shouldn't just be a tick box exercise. The results of the consultation clearly shows an appetite to save Stubbington Study Centre, as do the petitions, protest march and the opinions of our community. Closing Stubbington Study Centre would mean losing a truly irreplaceable resource for our children's learning and development, I know I've said that so many times, and so have lots of other people, but it matters. Therefore, I do urge the committee, the Cabinet rather, to reconsider this proposal and explore alternative options. And Leader, we have debated this on several occasions. There may be other areas, other places that come into being where we can actually build a new secure children's home, and we do need to look at that very carefully. I would like to just close by saying that I trust you will give careful consideration to these concerns and make a decision that upholds the best interest of our community and our children's future. Thank you for listening and considering mine and my residents' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Pal. We now have questions that we might have from Cabinet. Okay, so I've got Jan and then Kirsty.
Yes, thank you, Leader, and thank you to our officers for their very detailed presentation. Gary, many people don't understand about the sites that we looked at, and I just wondered if you could explain some of the planning constraints that face the decision we're having to make, what they are, and if you could give us an idea of the number of sites, not exactly, but the rough number of sites that we looked at and we put through that planning consideration process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Warwick. Absolutely. I'll talk in general terms rather than get us in danger of needing to break into exempt session. So in general terms, as you can imagine, we started with a longer list of sites and refined that over the 6 to 12 month period, as I've referred to. The starting point for that long list of sites were sites in our ownership and also sites that were kind of big enough, because that's the obvious place to start. And the Department for Education guidance in terms of the right footprint that is required for one of these sites is 1.6 hectares. That's about 3.5 football pitches, just to kind of for the non-metric individuals in the room. But that's sort of the size of land holding that we would require. And so against that, we then did our long list sieve. So we broadly, in general terms, looked at about 35 sites, which met that initial size-based criteria. And then what we then did across each of those was, as part of that initial sift, then consider the planning implications, the practical implications of bringing those forward as we refined it down to a shorter list. From a planning perspective, there are a number of considerations. So probably the single most important one is proximity to settlement boundary. So as these sites move forward, it is development predominantly potentially on greenfield sites, where we've got to consider very, very carefully the proximity to settlement boundaries in terms of the available local infrastructure. There's a practical point that we consider then in terms of the proximity to local labour market and local workforce. But that overarching proximity to the settlement boundary is key. As you know, members of Cabinet will be aware, we've got lots of green fields that we own across parts of rural Hampshire, many of which we farm. But from a planning perspective, that would be a very, very significant challenge in terms of proximity to settlement boundary, but also the practical considerations of these sites being near to local population, transport infrastructure for that workforce of between 100 and 150 employees that would be required for a secure unit. So alongside the settlement boundary, we then got to look at the status of those sites within local plans. So again, that was all considered in terms of, have those sites been put forward in previous local plans? Are there any existing allocations against them? And have we unsuccessfully or successfully promoted those sites? And what were the reasons for that? The final things that we've then considered are the current uses of those sites. And as members will be aware, when you go through a planning process, there are opportunities to change planning designations against those sites. So again, a number of those sites would have had either existing planning designations or restrictions. And again, for each of that long list of sites, that was looked at in absolute detail. And then the judgment of our professional planners was taken into account in terms of the relative risk and appropriateness of bringing those sites forward based on those current designations. So a huge amount of work done in terms of the site selection across a number of criteria. Planning was obviously at the heart of that, and I hope that gives you a bit of a flavour for those considerations that we undertook.
Kirsty.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thanks, Gary. Stuart, question for you, please. If Swanwick Lodge is fully occupied at the moment, or in the future, if it were to be unavailable, where is the next closest secure children's home where you could place a Hampshire child?
Thank you, Councillor North. The next nearest secure home is the Atkinson unit at Exeter in Devon.
Okay. Any other questions, colleagues? No? All okay? In which case, Gary, Stuart, thank you so much. We will now, before we move into debate, what I'm going to do is ask Jonathan whether he'd like to give us some feedback from the 2050 Select Committee. We've got your letter, thank you, which detailed the debate and the motion that was passed there, but I don't really want to say anything further in addition to that.
Right, thank you, Leader. I'm not sure if the residents actually know the recommendations we made, so I think it'd be.
So they're part of the papers.
Yeah.
They're on page 255. So
as long as they are happy,
that's all
they know
part of that.
Okay.
Yes.
And most of them were at the meeting. I'd like to echo the wise words of Councillor Hare. We respect the integrity of our officers, and we also all agree that the children of Swanwick Lodge need a fair deal. We all agree that. That comes out in the recommendations. But there's a couple of lessons that we've learned from this, okay? I commend the amendments to the Cabinet. We commend the amendment not to close the Stubbington Centre. This was agreed unanimously by the committee. In addition, there were amendments being added to the amendment, and they were taken on by the proposer and seconder and agreed unanimously. There is a growing swell of opinion that this should not have come to a scrutiny committee in this form, and that swelling is, that opinion is growing all the time. But we have what we have in front of us. In retrospect, to close down a perfectly good, well-run, profitable asset for the sake of securing money from the DFE inherently was an error of judgment. I don't suggest it's our judgment. I suggest it's a judgment at higher level beyond our pay grade. And we suggest that this form of dilemma is not revisited upon councillors. Okay? However, I'd like to recommend also that in future, when a chairman of any scrutiny committee requests a site visit, that's actioned immediately, because they are requested for good reason. I'd like to thank our officers. I'd like to thank our scrutiny members. I'd like to thank the 5 cabinet members who attended the scrutiny committee. I'd like to thank all the deputies for their interest and commitment to the matter on the agenda. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. I think we should be clear that officers were working within the limitations that they were given, and at the end of the day, it is their job to give us their best advice. And so I would refute the fact that there was ever any suggestion that there was an error of judgment in any of this. This is about them offering us their best advice, and it is for us to make the decisions around that, and we have to take into account all of the different pieces of information that we receive. Similarly, we have a responsibility to go through consultation, and consultation is there for a reason, and as is indeed scrutiny of anything that we bring forward. So I think we should just be clear about that fact before we go any further. Right. So we are in a place where we are moving into debate. We have the recommendation in front of us from our directors, and that what we'll do, I think now, is to debate amongst ourselves. And just to answer Jan's point, then what I'll ask having debated what we wish to say, I'll ask the other select committee chairman whether they'd like to say something at the end of that part of it. But we've heard from the appropriate select committee chair in terms of his feedback. Okay, so did you want to go first, Roz? It's your area.
Thank you, Leader. I think everyone in this room understands the important work that Swanwick Lodge does. Swanwick Lodge is a specialist welfare children's home dedicated to providing invaluable support to vulnerable children aged 10 to 17 years. These children have experienced, and some are still experiencing, trauma and abuse, making them some of the most at-risk children in our communities. And as Councillor Hare commented and said, we are the corporate parents to those children, along with the other children in our care. These children undoubtedly need our compassion and support, especially as their challenges and vulnerabilities ever increase. Stubbington and the recent consultation has provided us with compelling evidence of how deeply valued the study centre is by so many in Hampshire. Its focus on providing residential experience for primary age children, many of whom are venturing on their first few nights away, and giving them that unique and enriching educational experience has been affirmed through heartfelt responses. Hearing from Charlotte and Matilda at the Select Committee about their own personal growth by being able to stay at Stubbington, and Alfie too, and how Stubbington really helped his brother achieve great things. Lila and George today, and the inclusive experience that they had with their friends has been wonderful to hear. Therefore, after carefully reviewing the feedback and listening to the voices of the children, residents and local members and the Select Committee, I would like to take the opportunity to propose some alternative resolutions.
Okay, so if we're putting forward an alternative resolution, I think the best thing for you to do is to read that to us, and then if we've got a seconder, we will break just for a minute so that we can then transfer that into something that can be shared both online and with everybody else in the room, so they understand the alternative resolution to which we're talking at that point.
Thank you. So, the alternative resolution, number 1, Cabinet commends the officers for their hard work on identifying suitable sites and notes the challenges of identifying suitable sites within the time frame and the criteria prescribed by the Department of Education. 2, that despite being the only viable site in the County Council's ownership currently meeting the Department of Education site criteria, the Stubbington site will not be repurposed for the development of the new residential secure welfare unit. 3, that Cabinet recognises the pressing need for new investment in a secure new children's home to support Hampshire's most vulnerable children, and therefore requests the officers to formally write to the DfE to apply for a 6 months extension to allow further time to identify potential new sites. Request that officers consider future sites that may become available, and in doing so formally write to all districts and borough councils to identify suitable sites in their ownership that could be transferred to the County Council. 4, Cabinet note and accept the potential risk of losing the funding opportunity if a site cannot be identified within a suitable time frame, and that consequential impacts on the future operations of Swanwick Lodge in the funding opportunity is withdrawn. 5, the Cabinet requests that officers separately develop a long-term business plan for the education and outdoor centre service. I'll now forward that on to Marie.
Okay, I'm happy to second that alternative resolution. So that's the one to which we'll be speaking. What we'll do for a minute, sorry, Steve, did you want to add anything to that?
Chair, Leader, thank you. Yes, I would like to make a sixth recommendation if now would be convenient to do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably best to put it now. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to make an additional recommendation to that, recognising where we are and appreciating Councillor Chad's suggested resolutions. My additional resolution would be as followed for number 6. Hampshire County Council should proactively contact local schools to respond to and confirm any provisional booking requests or inquiries as they've been on hold to date, and ensure we're intelligently marketing the centre so as to operate it at full capacity. That's the text I'd like to add, so I'll send that through to Marie if that's okay.
Okay, have you got a seconder for that? Yeah, Zoe. So, okay. So what we're going to do then, everybody, is 12 o'clock. We've been going for an hour and a half anyway. I'm sure some people probably need the loo and to go and refresh your coffee. We'll have a break of 10 minutes. We'll come back at 10 past 12, by which point we'll have got all of the wording for that and we can then share it with everybody. And we're underway. So thank you everyone for bearing with us while we got those alternative resolutions up behind you, and hopefully you had a chance to take a look at them. So that is now, having been both proposed and seconded, those are the resolutions that we now have in front of us. There are a couple of slight stylistic issues in there which we will address, but they give the detail of what we wanted to say. So that's in front of us. Do we have any debate from Cabinet colleagues around what you'd like to say about that? Zoe.
Thank you, Leader. I've had many emails and correspondence and letters, specifically letters from children, as I'm sure we all have, and I'd like to thank them and taking the time to share their thoughts and concerns over this recommendation and proposal. Also, although I was there at the 2050 committee, I once again listened to the recording and the debates last night, and again thank those that spoke today. It's very important that we listen to understand, and I believe that we have done that. We must also ensure that all are heard, and those that are most vulnerable. This is the valuable part of the process, and part of understanding is looking also at the impact assessment to all. As a quote from John F. Kennedy, "Children are the world's most valuable resource and best hope for its future." We all know the power of education, learning and opportunity. Our experiences have shaped who we are today and continue to shape us. We also recognise the impacts of teachers, community leaders and social workers and the outstanding service here in Hampshire. Leader, I am a local member. I'm a lifelong resident of Gosport, and in the mid-80s, I experienced the residential at Stubbington Study Centre. It was dorm-like experience then, and it was also the first time that it became apparent that I sleptwalked. Nearly two decades on, my son also experienced Stubbington Study Centre. And in seeking to understand, I spoke with my son about the value of his visit and his experiences. And he's in his 20s now, and it was lovely to reflect back to that experience. And some of those experiences were very much like that of what we heard from Matilda, Charlotte, Alfie, and his brother's story, and also George, Layla, and Joseph today. The outdoor experience, the hive, but more importantly, the sleepover that was beyond that of the safety of someone's home. And he did have some stories to tell. A quote from today from Mr. Harris, Stubbington Study Centre is a unique place. It fosters change and growth, the skills needed to contribute in today's society. My career from an environmental charity and as an outdoor leader, I can also fully appreciate the power of outdoors on our mental health, well-being, the development as a child of curiosity and risk-based learning, and the secondary impact of protecting our habitat and the importance of it for the next generation. There are, of course, always more than one side to debate and understanding. And as we heard from Stuart, the Director of Children's Services, we must also make sure that we hear those voices. During my 25-year career in education, not only have I experienced Stubbington Study Centre, I have also experienced the increasing need and the value of the service and learning opportunity within Swanwick and the secure units like Swanwick, offering the opportunity to the most vulnerable and also outside that of traditional learning. It also fosters change and growth, providing the basis to the framework to also develop the skills needed to contribute in society. The decision today is not one of debating the quality or the value of service, as both are essential in offering opportunity to all. All children should have the opportunity and chance to thrive and fulfil their potential. But the question is, what is equity for all in this scenario? And this is the dilemma, as both are of value, and that is what we are debating. And I think, Joseph, you articulated that choice really well today, as both pose a risk to the choices that we make and those opportunities that we give to all children that deserve that. However, I have concluded, and I can only therefore conclude, that at this current time, I can only support that alternative resolution that we have in front of us, and the addition that I seconded of making sure that we proactively communicate with schools to reopen bookings and ensure those opportunities are available. And we must continue to seek alternative sites for Swanwick's secure unit, as this also is valuable for the opportunity of children within Hampshire. Thank you, Leader.
Thanks very much, Zoe. Any other debate? Russell and then Jan.
Thank you very much, Leader. I just want to take a moment to explain why I will be supporting the 6 alternative resolutions that we've heard. This has been a difficult and finely balanced decision for me from the beginning. And before I talk about Stubbington, I want to just say something about Swanwick. I mean, it has become very clear that Swanwick is a very special place. And for me, that's about the team that's there. They're a credit to Hampshire County Council because they do a very challenging job every day. And together, through their specialist expertise and their compassion, they do save lives. And keeping that team together is incredibly important for those children and for the future. And it actually brings to mind a quote from Albert Einstein. Councillor Huggins has quoted JFK. I'm going to quote Albert Einstein. He said, not everything that counts can be counted, and not everything that can be counted counts. And for me, this is about more than the 62 million that's available for replacing Swanwick. It's about keeping the institutional knowledge that has been built up over decades at Swanwick and making sure that we can transfer that to a new site. So turning to Stubbington, in the public health sphere, we take childhood obesity very seriously. And that's because we know that it's easier to stay healthy as adults if you get into good habits early on. And the levels of overweight and obese children are very concerning, approaching a third. So we want to do everything we can to get kids to do more physical activity. Those of us who were born in the 1970s and earlier grew up playing outside. Maybe we've taken that for granted. It's changed. Because of parental anxiety and technology, kids don't play outside in the same way that we did, being out there with the beetles and the worms and the newts. That was just the way we grew up. And it was a magical, idyllic way to grow up because we all developed a passion for nature. So it was clear to me that children visiting Stubbington were getting that passion for nature. What I was keen to understand is whether that stayed with them, whether there was a lasting benefit to those kids from that visit to Stubbington, and whether they would go on to enjoy playing outdoors, climbing trees, being out there finding animals in nature. And through talking to the team there at Stubbington, talking to the teachers who were there when we visited, and talking to the children, it became very clear to me that there is a lasting benefit. And we heard from George and Lila earlier that it was life-changing for them. And I really genuinely believe that. One girl I spoke to when I was at Stubbington was telling me how they'd trapped a vole and then just had a little look at the vole before letting it go again. And she was so excited about it, and I could tell that that would stay with her forever. And I think probably that conversation will stay with me forever. So because there's this lasting benefit to so many children and their health and well-being is going to benefit for the rest of their lives, I've come to the view that we do have to look for an alternative site and keep Stubbington. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Russell. Jan and then Kirsty.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I think it's important to say that most of us have visited both sites and visited recently, and it's a testament to Hampshire County Council, all our staff and officers, that we have two such amazing centres, and this is, of course, an impossible decision for us. There are strong arguments on both sides. when I visited Swanwick, it was just before Christmas, and and I'm kind of a tough nut, but actually it brought me to tears to see the presents being packed for those children that were going to stay over Christmas at Swanwick, and more so because they're not allowed to have a Christmas tree inside for obvious reasons. The caretaker had gone to great lengths to put Christmas lights outside so they could see the lights and the Christmas tree that he was decorating outside from their windows. So be in no doubt, although they don't have a large amount of people coming here today to speak on their behalf, that this centre is really important to all of us. And then Stubbington, what an amazing site, and everybody knows the name of Stubbington. It's fantastic, it's beloved. You did the march in the most awful weather, and I really appreciate that. It's environmentally sustainable, so interesting. The Saxon hut, incredible. I know that's the stories that go on there, and then the hide at night. It's a wonderful, wonderful site, and it's so impressive to me that you want to cherish that site for future generations. So a difficult decision, but I'm very happy that we've come up with alternative resolutions, which I'm very happy to support as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirsty.
Thank you, Leader. I will also be supporting the alternative resolutions before us today. I do believe that it's right to call for additional period of time so we can try and explore further sites and include that request to the district and boroughs in case that they have a site that they could offer us for this vital secure children's unit that we really do need. I'd like to thank Councillor Burton for her deputation today because she focused on the need for the new secure children's unit, and I recognise that that's in her division and she really understands it well. And also to dispel some of the comments that I've read online about the types of children that are in that unit. And you drew on the wall that you see in the entrance exit of Swanwick Lodge, and it really struck me when I visited. Again, it was in the winter, and the comments of hope that being there is for the best. You might not think it when you first walk in. This is the first thing you're going to see when you're taken to the unit, is all the messages of hope for those that come before you and after you. And I think that really tells us how well loved and needed that secure children's home is. As Councillor Warwick said, I visited in the winter as well, and only half the building had heating. It was temperamental, and part of the building we were nice and toasty, and the other part everyone was wearing coats, and it was clear that that building is not fit for the future, and we do need a new modern, well-equipped building that will be able to accommodate and serve those children that need that vital care. As we heard, having a site in Hampshire will be vitally important, not for the children themselves, but also for the families who play a key role in the reintegration. And as Stuart mentioned earlier, the next closest site is in Exeter, but that's only if it has space available at the time at which we want to site a child there. So having somewhere in our county, I feel, is really important, and I really hope that the reprieve and the stay for extra time is received, welcomed from the DFE, so that we can try and secure that site in Hampshire. Because I too visited Stubbington Study Centre, and I could see that this great centre, this place, really does have a unique selling point and an ethos, and I just think that George and Lila brought that to life today. So I'd really like to thank them for coming and talking through so eloquently about their experience at that centre. And I think it was clear that activity like that needs to continue for generations to come. So I'll be supporting the resolutions. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Kirsty. Steve.
Thank you, Leader. Firstly, I'd like to give my thanks to Layla, George and Joseph, who I hope are future contenders for councillors in the future, members of the Hampshire Youth Parliament because your presentations were fantastic. So thank you. I've done 3 visits, in fact 4 visits I think, to Stubbington, 3 of them quite recently with members. I feel I could probably give a tour myself, and I have enjoyed the Stubbington biscuits whilst I was there. I'd like to emphasise that the consultations and other input that we've received have a huge impact, and they're a vital part of the decision-making process. I've personally had in the past suggestions that decisions were made before consultations or before decision meetings. That is simply not true. In fact, the views expressed by residents play an important role in shaping position, aligned with the amazing work, collaborative, that our officers carry out with organisations such as the DFE. We do believe in listening to our community and the feedback that we get, coupled with the fact that in this particular instance there have been recent developments and they're continuing, and what we're proposing, I think, reinforces my my support for the resolutions that Councillor Chad put forward with my additional one. So I will be supporting them. My aim ultimately is, and I hope this is shared by Cabinet and members, that we're supporting the education that's carried out at Stubbington and the life skills it presents to members, but coupled with doing something about Swanwick where we do need to support those most vulnerable. The two can be done hand in hand, as Joseph eloquently said. So thank you, I will be supporting this.
Super, thanks. Lily? Yeah.
I'll try not to be too long. I've struggled with the original proposals, I have to be honest. I read the official papers, attended the briefings, researched online and listened to the recording of the 2050 Select Committee. With all the deputations and obviously heard about the children's petition as well, which I don't think has been mentioned today. So thank you to everyone who has spoken today as well. Like Councillor Minahan, it was inspiring to hear from Alfie about his brother Riley. That really resonated with me, and his experience of Stubbington and how it helped to change his life. Also mentioned by Alfie was about how 25 of the most vulnerable of Hampshire's looked after children will attend the same course of study this summer, just as Riley did, and it could be the change they need, just as it was for them. Talking to Councillor Oppenheimer, we were discussing how our own childhood and education affected us and how that came back when we visited Stubbington. You know, whether it's guides or brownies or being out in all weathers playing and also exercising. You know, it helps to shape you and your approach to life and gives you an appreciation of nature that I don't think any of us have left behind. Most importantly, I visited Stubbington with fellow Cabinet members and saw the unique offer it has for primary school children. We saw the range of outdoor team building activities, including the waterproof shelters, building in the woods, and walked down to the beach, so easily accessible from there, to see the children digging for fossils and the excitement also finding things like Iron Age tools. It was difficult not to be impressed by the centre and its unique location of woods, fields and the sea, and its facilities, including the wildlife hide. So important is the lack of screen time as well. I think that's key. So during their stay, it is very focused on the activity that they're experiencing. It's clear that this is a place that gives children immeasurable life-changing experiences, where the curriculum actually comes alive and theories become a reality. The ethos of a healthy mind in a healthy body, with special value given to adventure, with children working together and learning through doing. The activities harness the imagination and develop self-sufficiency and social skills in a group environment. All children are welcome despite their complex needs and are supported in the experience. It is also a positive, enriching experience for the visiting teachers, as the Stubbington staff are all trained and qualified, and they work closely with their colleagues, who then take their experiences from there back to their schools as good practice and develop their own outdoor teaching. I think it's been mentioned today with outdoor classrooms. So lasting benefit. It's a lots of people's happy place, and I think that's key. I've also visited Swanwick Lodge at the same time as my colleagues in the winter when it was cold, and really appreciated the essential care being given to the most vulnerable children, and appreciate how important the offer of 62 million is from central government to build a new facility in Hampshire, selected because of our well-recognised high standard of care. I believe we must continue to consider other sites, however, that fit the criteria required by the Department for Education to continue the legacy of this work. To sum up, I feel Stubbington is such a precious place, unique in its geography and the experience it offers to all children, life-changing even, as we heard from various deputies, both at 2050 and today. It emphasised the emotional, behavioural and well-being factors and how they improve social behaviour and reduce hyperactivity and attention, so contributing to the improved mental health of many of the pupils who visited Stubbington Study Centre. I believe it plays an important part in preventing many children from suffering severe mental health issues in the future, and I think this has been raised today. It's an invaluable asset for children across Hampshire and therefore should not be closed. Swanwick must continue. The search for a new site, however, that should be Southwark. Stubbington must continue. The search for a new site for Swanwick must also continue at speed, and I thank the officers for all their hard work so far. Also Councillor Glenn and the 2050 Committee for their work and participation. Both these assets are essential to Hampshire and I believe should be decided separately. I'm very happy therefore to support all Councillor Chadd's 6 alternative resolutions on the screen today. Thank you.
Okay, Liz, you're the only person not to have spoken.
I will be supporting the alternative resolutions on the screen. I went down to Stubbington Study Centre and I was absolutely bowled over by the facilities, the ethos, and what impressed me most was the ability that the children had the freedom to play for free play. A lot of children don't get that these days. They tend to be over-supervised and regulated. And just being able to say, off you go and play. As Councillor Barrowman said, we used to do it all the time as children. I think it's something really lacking in our society that children don't have that freedom today. And so yes, I will support this. But as to Swanwick Lodge, I agree with Councillor Oppenheimer. We mustn't lose the expertise they have built up in looking after these children. We have a corporate responsibility to them. We have the expertise and the knowledge, and we must do everything we can to find a site to rebuild the centre. Thank you.
Super, thanks. So before I sum up, just checking whether the Select Committee chairs would like to say anything. Phil?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's all been said, really, especially by Layla and George and all the other fantastic public speakers, but I'm the Vice Chairman of the committee and I was sent here with a purpose from the Chairman of the Children and Young Persons Select Committee today to urge the Cabinet to reject the proposal to close Stubbington and to look for an alternative site to Swanwick. But you've obviously already come to that conclusion in terms of the amendment to the recommendations that are put up on the screen, and I'm sure Juliet or Councillor Henderson will welcome that. I certainly do. But to do both is easier said than done. Obviously officers have done a lot of work so far in terms of looking for alternative sites for Swanwick and haven't been able to come to a suitable option so far, but I really welcome from the decision that I hope the Cabinet are about to make in terms of taking the time to look further at those sites, redoubling officer efforts, consulting with others to try and to find that, because as we've heard from the strength of feeling and the evidence that we've heard today, that work needs to be done. We need to find an alternative site and we need to do both for the benefit of all Hampshire children. Thank you.
Thanks. Rob?
Thanks, Linda. I just want to make a quick thank you to everyone who's come along today. It's been really encouraging to have the number of people come along to the audience for this cabinet meeting, the number of people who came along to the 2050 committee, the number of people who actually filled in the consultation, the number of people who got involved and marched. It's a really encouraging factor when you are involved in local government to see that people care and actually voice their opinions and see that the machine does change direction when people say what they think. And actually, when they say it eloquently, as many of you have done today, and make very valid points, that the decisions aren't made in advance, that the views of the people do matter. And I'm very encouraged that Hampshire County Council showed the impact of that today. So thank you.
Bill?
Thank you, Leader. As Chairman of the Health and Adult Social Care Committee, I want to endorse what Liz and Russell has said about the need for Swanwick Lodge and the importance of our responsibility for looking after the most vulnerable people in our society. But also as a corporate parent responsibility we have to 5 to 11-year-olds and ensuring that they see, need and have an active role in developing themselves, you know, with their life skills, their education and the trust in people outside their immediate families. And I think Stubbington is an asset which we cannot allow to actually disappear from Hampshire. So I support all the resolutions up there, noting of course that I hope some of the most vulnerable don't come into their health and adult social care responsibility in due course. And we live in very precious times at the moment. So any benefits as a corporate parent we can give to our children is essential to do it now and to maintain it for the future. So I will support the resolutions.
Super, thanks. Thank you for all of your views. I'll just take a couple of moments just to wrap everything up. So thank you to all of you who've come along. It's important that we hear your voices, and it's important that you are given the opportunity to have your say, and your contributions have been incredibly helpful to us. Mr. Howard and Mr. Harris made some really important points, and having that direct relationship with the centre is of incredible help. One small thing I'd just like to mention is that Mr. Howard mentioned the link with criminal justice. Just to be very clear, the children who are assisted by Swanwick Lodge and the children that need the support of our secure children's home are the victims in this, and they are often the subject of the most horrendous abuse and neglect. And it is those children that as corporate parents we have to consider in terms of with the highest priority amongst what we're doing. And Lila and George, you were incredibly brave today. It is very, very daunting. It's frightening to come and talk to all these grumpy old people. At least you got the morning off school, which is possibly a bonus, but I suspect that you probably got the short straw in having and coming to talk to us all. But hearing exactly how you'd got on at Stubbington was really helpful to us, as it was also to hear from some of your fellow pupils who came and talked to the 2050 Select Committee. And Joseph, you're absolutely right, there is a balance to be made, and we have a balance that we always have to make around these decisions. And being able to create an objective sense of where that balance lies is always the challenge for us all. And Lynn wrapped up perfectly. You're right that there's a geographic element to this. Inevitably, there's an awful lot of provision of outdoor centres in the southwest of the county, thanks to the National Park in the New Forest, and Stubbington is our only provision in the southeast of the county, and that's an important point. Our colleagues, as always, have come along and put their points eloquently and professionally. Leslie's point about the degree of deprivation within reach of Stubbington is a really important one for us to consider, and I share your pain in the sense of having children who are equally consumed by phones, and any opportunity to give them a sense of the real world is an important one for all of us. Mike, your views locally and your own experience is an essential one as well. And it was good to understand the wider impact across Fareham from your views. And Joanne's comments about Swanwick, I think, were spot on. Swanwick, rebuilding Swanwick on site is something that I know has been looked into in some detail, and unfortunately there just isn't the space to do what we need to do in terms of the site constraints that Gary mentioned in his presentation. And Pal has been a consistent and assiduous advocate for her area, and she has indeed been talking to me an awful lot about this, and we have spoken at great length on many occasions. And in fact, I may not dodge into rooms when she comes down the corridor towards me, because I know she's going to grab me again. But it is something that on all of your behalf she has worked tirelessly on over the last few months, and in a really positive and engaging way, to enable us to come to the right decision, I think, this afternoon. What we're talking about is nationally significant infrastructure. We all have a responsibility to help the children who are eventually assisted in facilities such as Swanwick, and we heard that the nearest one to us is in Exeter. So being able to have that facility in Hampshire is really important, and the reason that it is being considered by Hampshire is that our children's services are outstanding and our officers are outstanding, and they have consistently been able to deliver fantastic results for all of our children, and that comes back to that issue of balance. Politics is about choices, and the choices that we have to make are often tricky ones. There's never a wrong suggestion, there's never a wrong recommendation, and if I might say, there are never errors of judgment. There are choices for us to make, and we need to make those choices having listened to the consultation that we have undertaken. Consultation is important because we need to hear what people say. And I think Rob made a good point in saying that people, and Steve as well, in saying that people often think that consultation is just pointless. It's just a tick box exercise. It's not. We have to listen to what people think. We want to know what their views are, and we want to take those into account, because often they give perspectives that we are not, of which we're not aware, and of which we have not taken into account when initially thinking about the ideas that are put in front of us. But consultation is also part of a council process that leads to a point like today, where everybody keeps an open mind until the point at which we make the decision. And although it's frustrating, and although when everybody shows such opposition to something like this, there is an important process for us to go through to get to that point. So we make this decision with our eyes open. We make this decision aware of the risk that we make in making that choice, and creating the balance and taking into account the balance that we have between the different competing aspects of the needs of the children in our county. And we leave ourselves with an enormous amount of work to do at pace to ensure that we are able to meet both of those different needs. Our officers have worked incredibly hard in coming forward with these proposals. They are good proposals. They are decent and honest and honourable proposals, and we need to find ones that are equally as decent and honest and honourable to still meet both of the different competing requirements that we identify as part of this. So I'm very happy to support the proposal. We do the rather odd thing now of having to vote to change the resolution and then vote to support the resolution. So don't think we've all gone mad voting twice. It is just the way that things happen. So can I ask for those in favour of the alternative resolution that's been proposed by Councillor Chad and seconded by myself? Okay, so that's unanimous, thank you. And so that now is the resolution that we have in front of us. Could I ask for all of those in favour of what is now the substantive resolution? Okay, that's unanimous as well. So thank you everyone for attending. That is the end of the meeting. We have made our decision, and we now begin the work to find an alternative site for Swanwick.